The United States has unleashed dozens of 13-ton bunker-busting bombs on Iran's underground weapons laboratories, and Tehran is burning. Refineries tied to the regime, symbolic towers, and deeply buried military fortresses are collapsing one after another. A relentless wave of attacks has targeted the deepest layers of Iran's security infrastructure. Massive bunker-buster bombs sealed underground security tunnels, while fortified bases once believed to be untouchable have been shattered by overwhelming air power. One of the most dramatic strikes focused on the regime's heavily protected underground command complex, associated with Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. More than 50 warplanes reportedly took part in the assault, dropping around 100 bunker-buster bombs. The multi-layered fortress that once symbolized the regime's ultimate safe haven has been reduced to rubble. But before diving deeper into the scale of destruction, it's important to understand the rapidly expanding conflict surrounding Iran. This is no longer a regional crisis. What began as a confrontation between Iran and a few adversaries has spiraled into a widening geopolitical firestorm. After Iran launched attacks across the Gulf region and beyond, the conflict escalated dramatically. The United Kingdom issued a stunning announcement declaring that it had officially joined the war against Iran. Meanwhile, Iran fired drones and missiles toward multiple countries that had not previously attacked it, broadening the battlefield. The sides now involved reveal the scale of the confrontation. The United States, Israel, the United Kingdom, and France are actively engaged in military operations. Kurdish forces are conducting operations from the east, while Azerbaijan remains on high alert along Iran's northern border. Gulf states such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar have been exposed to Iranian attacks and are preparing retaliation. Iran now faces an expanding coalition, while standing increasingly isolated. In response, the United States launched one of its most powerful aerial operations. Stealth B-2 bombers penetrated Iranian airspace and struck underground uranium enrichment facilities with GBU-57 bunker-buster bombs. Each of these massive weapons weighs roughly 13 tons. Rather than exploding on impact, they drill through layers of earth, concrete, and reinforced steel before detonating deep underground. These bombs were designed specifically to destroy the kinds of fortified laboratories and nuclear facilities that Iran had buried beneath mountains and military compounds. At a moment when the regime was reportedly attempting to accelerate uranium enrichment, those laboratories were obliterated. The impact went beyond physical destruction. It shattered the regime's aura of invulnerability. Shortly afterward, ballistic missile factories hidden among civilian neighborhoods in the heart of Tehran were targeted. The Israeli Defense Forces launched wave after wave of airstrikes across Tehran, Ilam, and Isfahan. Explosions ripped through military facilities and command structures, sending a message that even the regime's most protected locations were no longer safe. One of the most symbolic targets lay beneath the leadership compound near Tehran's iconic Kazadi Tower whose name means freedom. The regime had positioned major missile infrastructure within the shadow of national monuments and densely populated neighborhoods, effectively using civilians as shields. But precision-guided munitions struck the facility with surgical accuracy, destroying the missile complex while minimizing damage to surrounding infrastructure. Flames rising near the tower became a powerful symbol, not just of a destroyed factory, but of a regime under unprecedented pressure. The following night marked the climax of the operation. More than 80 Israeli warplanes roared across Iranian skies, unleashing over 200 bombs within a matter of hours. Their focus was clear: underground facilities used to store and produce ballistic missiles. According to military statements, these sites were active hubs where members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operated. Missile depots, command centers, and key gathering points were struck. Among the most notable targets was the Imam Hussein Military Academy ***, which had reportedly become an emergency command hub for the IRGC. As commanders and soldiers assembled to coordinate wartime responses, the facility itself was destroyed. In effect, the regime's own emergency command structure collapsed at the very moment it attempted to activate it. Satellite imagery soon revealed the broader scale of damage. Major ballistic missile bases across Iran suffered heavy strikes. Missile launch facilities, tunnel networks, drone bases, aircraft shelters, and naval infrastructure were severely damaged or destroyed. Missile bases in provinces such as Hormozgan, Isfahan, Lorestan, and East Azerbaijan showed signs of devastating bombardment. Launch pads were shattered, control buildings destroyed, and tunnel entrances collapsed under the impact of bunker-buster strikes. Drone facilities were wiped out. Aircraft shelters were damaged. Missile launch sites erupted in secondary explosions as stored munitions ignited. The Natanz nuclear facility also sustained damage to key entrances used to access its underground enrichment infrastructure, according to international inspectors. While no immediate radiological threat was reported, the strikes demonstrated the ability to reach even the most fortified nuclear complexes. Within days, satellite analysis confirmed that numerous missile bases had been hit by American and Israeli strikes. The attacks were coordinated from multiple directions, U.S. forces operating heavily in the south, while Israeli aircraft targeted strategic sites across central and northern Iran. As a result, Iran now faces a devastating military reality. Its air force has been crippled, its naval capacity has been severely damaged, command structures have been disrupted, missile depots and production facilities have been systematically targeted. Iran's remaining ability to retaliate relies largely on drones and ballistic missiles, yet even the infrastructure supporting those weapons has been under sustained attack. Meanwhile, the strategic importance of the Strait of Hormuz looms over the global economy. For decades, Iran threatened to close this narrow waterway through which a large portion of the world's oil supply passes. But when tensions escalated, that threat triggered a massive naval response rather than forcing negotiations. Warships were destroyed, naval headquarters damaged, and coastal defense systems dismantled. U.S. naval forces moved quickly to secure the region and begin mine-clearing operations to ensure shipping routes remain open. Even if the strait is physically secure, tanker companies often wait days before resuming operations to ensure that drones, mines, or suicide boats no longer pose a threat. Global markets are watching closely. Oil prices could surge if shipping disruptions continue, and Europe's energy security is directly affected. In the geopolitical arena, the ripple effects are complex. Russia benefits in the short term from rising oil prices that strengthen its budget. At the same time, the war diverts Western attention and military resources away from Ukraine. China has taken a cautious approach. Beijing has criticized the attacks while avoiding direct military involvement, balancing its diplomatic position with its dependence on energy shipments passing through the Strait of Hormuz. For Iran, however, the consequences appear far more severe. Naval assets have been destroyed, air power has been crippled, command networks have been shaken, missile infrastructure has been hit repeatedly. What was once Iran's most powerful strategic card, the threat to close the Strait of Hormuz, has lost much of its deterrent value after the rapid military response it provoked. For decades, that threat served as a warning capable of shaking global markets, but when it was finally played, the response was overwhelming. The result has been a dramatic escalation rather than the leverage Tehran expected. Inside Iran, the political consequences could be equally significant. Analysts say the coming days may determine whether the regime can maintain control. If protests erupt and security forces hesitate to respond, the situation could rapidly spiral into a wider domestic crisis. For years, the regime invested enormous resources into proxy networks across the region. Groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and various militia organizations in Iraq and Syria. These alliances were presented as a protective axis of resistance. Yet during the most intense moments of the conflict, those proxy forces have been largely absent from direct intervention. That absence raises difficult questions about the effectiveness of a strategy that consumed billions in resources, while leaving the regime exposed when it mattered most. The war has revealed a stark reality. When overwhelming military power arrived over Tehran, those distant networks offered little immediate protection. The toll of the conflict continues to mount. High-ranking commanders have reportedly been eliminated. Missile launch capacity has dropped dramatically. Production facilities are under attack, reducing not only current capabilities but also future weapons development. Key nuclear infrastructure has been damaged, naval vessels destroyed, military bases shattered. Logistics networks have been disrupted, airports bombed, and supply lines strained. Iran attempted to project power across the region through missile and drone attacks, but each strike risked drawing new adversaries into the conflict. As more nations align against Tehran, the strategic pressure continues to grow. What began as a regional confrontation has transformed into one of the most volatile geopolitical crises in years. And the central question remains unanswered. How far will this conflict go? And what will the Middle East look like when the dust finally settles?